Welcome students. I am A. Bhagyalakshmi, Junior Lecturer working at APSWR College, Velluthi. Hello. Hi children. How are you? I hope you are all doing well. And you are so busy with your online classes, listening videos, watching videos, and making notes and writing assignments and so on. So, during these pandemic days, I missed you a lot. And I think you too missed a lot from your zoology lab. Okay children? Anyway, during COVID-19, it is very essential to take certain precautions. Wearing masks, washing your hands frequently with soap water, and maintaining social distance, and stay away from groups, etc. So, taking care of your health is most important. Today, in this online class, I want to introduce the topic structure of the brain. It is an important organ in our body. So, before that, I will introduce a few important points for you. This chapter, structure of the brain, included under the chapter 3rd B, that is neural control, and coordination. Let us know the meaning of coordination. Coordination means the two or more organs or organ systems interact with each other. That is coordination. I will explain you with an example so that you can clearly understand what is the coordination and which system is involved in bringing the coordination. So, whenever we do exercise, our skeletal muscles play an important role in doing exercise. So, while doing exercise, our muscular activity is increased. So, it demands more energy. To release more energy, more oxygen is required. So, to supply more oxygen, respiration rate is increased. In turn, it increases the heartbeat also. So that during the muscular activity, the activities of lungs, heart, and kidney are involved in processing this muscular activity. So, the activities of the lungs, heart, and kidney are integrated with a special type of system, that is nervous system. So, nervous system is also known as integrating system. Along with the nervous system, another system also involved in bringing the integration of these activities, that is endocrine system. We will discuss later about the endocrine system and its glands. So, now coming to the nervous system. It is 3 types. Mainly CNS, that means central nervous system, and PNS, that is peripheral nervous system. Then again, this peripheral nervous system is divided into somatic nervous system and autonomous nervous system. So coming to central nervous system, the brain and spinal cord are involved in processing the central nervous system. So now in a broad sense, I want to discuss about the parts of the brain. And before that, I will some introduction to this brain. You know very well that in your 10th class, you might have studied about the brain. Where? So, brain is, you know very well that it is present in a box-like structure that is called cranium, which is formed by the skeletal bones that are present in the skull. So a special box that is cranium. So the brain is protected in a special box that is known as cranium, which is formed by the skeletal bones of the skull. Then you see, I will draw the diagram. Carefully observe that diagram. This, the brain, surface of the brain is covered by a special type of layers. They are known as meninges. So, three types of meninges are there. The first is known as dura mater, and the middle one is said to be arcuate matter, and the innermost layer is said to be the innermost, the middle layer, that is said to be arcuate, and the innermost layer, that is known as pia mater. Dura mater. The middle layer is said to be arcuate matter. Arcuate matter. And the last, innermost layer is said to be pia matter. This is about the meninges. If we come in a brief description about the dura mater, it is made up of a fibrous, white fibrous tissue which is non-elastic in its nature. That means it is having collagen fibers which are non-elastic in nature. Then coming to arcuate matter, it is somewhat thin than this dura mater. It is thin layer. Then coming to pia matter, it is thinner than the arcuate matter, and it is made up of a special tissue that is vascular tissue. That means it is highly supplied with blood vessels. Pia matter has intimate connection with the brain because it is inner layer, no? That's why it has intimate connection with this brain, and it supplies blood to the brain. So that's why it is highly vascularized tissue. Then coming to the parts of the brain, it is divided into three parts: forebrain, then middle brain, the second one, and the last final one, that is hindbrain. Now I will explain about parts of the forebrain. The forebrain, it consists of three parts. The first part is olfactory lobes, olfactory lobe. The second one is cerebrum. There is a little space for me to write clearly because of diagram. Olfactory lobe, cerebrum. The third one is diencephalon. Diencephalon. Then coming to first part, that is olfactory lobes. It receives sensory impulses from the olfactory epithelium. Where it is present? Olfactory epithelium is present in the nasal chamber. So the epithelium that lines the nasal chamber is known as olfactory epithelium. So the first part of the brain, that is olfactory lobes, it receives the sensory impulses from olfactory epithelium to sense the smell. Then coming to cerebrum. The next part is cerebrum. This part, cerebral part. It is made up of cerebral cortex. This cerebral cortex shows many convolutions and depressions. It shows many convolutions and folds. So, because of these folds, many ridges and depressions are formed at the surface of the brain. See? Here you will find many depressions and ridges are formed. These folds and ridges are known as gyri and sulci, which are present in the cerebral cortex. So before that, we have to know one thing, that is the total cerebral part. This cerebral cortex is divided into two equal halves, that is right and left halves. So right half is known as right cerebral hemisphere and left part is known as left cerebral hemisphere. See here, in this diagram, it is clearly explained with this diagram. So, this one is cerebrum and it is divided into right and left halves because of this longitudinal commissure. So, externally it is divided with the help of this commissure, but internally it is connected with a fibrous band of tissue that is known as corpus callosum. Corpus callosum. See here, it is corpus callosum. Coming to this, have you seen this diagram? From this diagram, we can clearly understand that the left cerebral hemisphere controls the activities of the right side and the right cerebral hemisphere controls the activities of the left side. Whenever this part is damaged, the right side of the part is damaged means left side will become paralyzed. And if the left side become damaged means the right side of the activities and the right side of the organs become paralyzed. So, then coming to the next part. This lobe contains. Next, we will see another part which is present in cerebrum. The most important thing we have to discuss here is about the lobes. This cerebral hemisphere divided into four lobes, that is frontal lobe and parietal lobe, occipital lobe, temporal lobe. We are able to see clearly in this color chart. So, the first lobe is said to be frontal lobe. The next, the first part which is present in front of the forehead, that is part of the brain is known as frontal lobe. And the upper surface, that means the lobe which covers the upper side of the brain is said to be parietal lobe. Then sides, just nearer to the ears, a lobe is present, that is said to be temporal lobe. That means the occipital lobe is located behind the brain. So once again I will explain. The frontal lobe is present in the front side and parietal lobe covers the upper surface and the temporal lobe present at the sides nearer to ears. Then occipital lobe present behind it covers the behind back portion of the skull. It covers the back portion. Okay. Then coming to frontal lobe functions. It is involved in processing the intellectual activities, all the intellectual activities of the human being, which makes human being different from the behavior of the animals. So due to these intellectual activities that are covered, that are processed by these different lobes, the human being is become more intelligent than the others. So, what are the functions? What are the processes that are involved by the frontal lobe means planning, problem solving, memory, speech, movements, all these things are processed by the frontal lobe. Similarly, the parietal lobe, it is also involved in memory, speech and auditory reception. All these things are processed by the parietal lobe. Then coming to temporal lobe. Temporal lobe is involved in auditory perception mainly. Then the movement orientation also maintained by the temporal lobe. Then coming to occipital lobe. This occipital lobe, where it is present? It is present at the back portion of the brain. So mainly it is concerned with the visual perception. That is the thing. So all these intellectual activities are under the control of cerebrum. Have you understand? Then coming to the part. It is the entire portion, the surface portion is made by a grey matter. Grey matter generally, while we discussing about the grey matter, what we told, the grey matter contains many non-myelinated axons. That is the most important thing. Then inner to the cortex, medulla also present. That is known as cerebral medulla. So the cerebrum contains two parts. Externally it is covered with the cerebral cortex and internally it is made up of a white myelinated tissue, white matter, that is called white matter. It consists of mainly composed of myelinated cells. The first point we have to discuss about the brain means it is made up of grey matter outside side, inner side it is contained white matter. This is the major difference between the spinal cord and brain. You have to remember this thing. It is more important for your MSET bit also. The spinal cord is opposite to this structure of the brain. In the spinal cord, grey matter is present inner side, out matter is present, white matter is present outer side. But while taking the brain structure, the grey matter is present outer side, the white matter is present inner side. between the white matter and grey matter means the grey matter contains non-myelinated axons of the nerve cell. The white matter contains myelinated axons. That is the more difference. Then, coming to another important thing that is connected to this cerebrum means it is divided into 3 areas depending upon its functions. Depending upon the functions. That means sensory areas. Number 1 is sensory areas. Sensory area. The second part is motor area. The third part is associated area, which is very, very important in controlling the activities of the human body. Sensory area. The name itself indicates it receives the sensory impulses from all the organs. Then motor area. It controls all the voluntary movements. That means the activities which are done by us consciously are maintained by this motor area. Then coming to associated area. It is neither sensory nor motor, but a great deal. It controls all the intellectual behaviors, all the involuntary actions that are controlled by this associated area. That means the things done by us without our conscious are under the control of associated area. Mainly you remember that. Once again, I will remember you. The associated area, it is neither sensory nor motor in function, but it is integrated all the activities which are taken by us without our conscious. So that is the associated area. Next part, with this I completed. I think now you are able to answer the question, what is cerebrum? Up to this I have completed. Then coming to the next part. What is the next part? Next part is diencephalon. See the diagram here. Diencephalon. This part is said to be, diencephalon is divided into 3 parts. The roof of the diencephalon, here you are able to see clearly diencephalon. The roof of the diencephalon is known as epithalamus. Epithalamus. What is its function and where it is present? So, if we take a rough diagram, if we bisect the brain, above the midbrain, we will see the diencephalon like this. Suppose this is the midbrain. This is midbrain. This is pons varoli. This is medulla. And this one is spinal cord. Spinal cord. So if we bisect the above the midbrain, we are able to see this part, that is diencephalon part. So if this diencephalon is made up of 3 parts, that is epithalamus, which is the roof of the, which forms the roof of the diencephalon. Then coming to the center region, this middle part is known as thalamus region. Thalami is also known as, and with another name, that is optic thalami. Optic thalami. Thalamus. Thalamus. Optic thalamus is nothing but the nervous bands which are made with grey matter are highly present in this thalamus region. Those grey matter part which forms into two furrows-like structure are known as optic thalami. With the help of this optic thalami, thalamus controls all the motor and sensory activities that are performed by our body. Then the last part is said to be hypothalamus part. Here you see hypothalamus is extended like a funnel shaped structure that is called infundibulum. Infundibulum, which is ended with this lobed gland-like structure that is said to be pituitary body. Pituitary body. So where it is present? Pituitary gland or pituitary body is present. It arises from the hypothalamus region. This is hypothalamus region. This hypothalamus is the basal portion of the diencephalon. Hypothalamus, the name itself indicates hypo means it is present at the base of the diencephalon. So from the hypothalamus, a special part arises, that is pituitary part. It is attached to the funnel shaped structure that is known as infundibulum. Here is, you say that infundibulum. Infundibulum. So once again I will repeat for clarification. The diencephalon contains three parts: epithalamus, thalamus and hypothalamus. Epithalamus forms a roof of the diencephalon, and the roof, at the roof, a non-nervous part is present. That non-nervous part is known as anterior choroid plexus. Anterior choroid plexus is present at the roof of the diencephalon. What is its function? I will discuss about that later. So anterior choroid plexus means it is a non-nervous part which is present at the region of the epithalamus. To this non-nervous part, a special stalk-like structure is present. That stalk is said to be pineal stalk. Pineal stalk. So pineal stalk ends with a rounded structure, gland-like structure, that is said to be pineal body. So epithalamus, the two important points are there. One is anterior choroid plexus. Then another one is pineal body. These two parts are present in epithalamus. Then coming to the thalamus region, optic thalamus is present. This optic thalamus controls the motor and sensory areas, already we discussed. Then coming to the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus extended in the form of a funnel shaped structure known as infundibulum. This infundibulum is ended with a gland, that is pituitary gland. It is a master gland. It is known as master gland. Why means it controls all the endocrine glands. The secretions of the pituitary gland are regulates all the endocrine glands. But this pituitary gland is stimulated by a special hormones that are known as hypothalamic hormones, which are secreted by a group of neurosecretory cells which are present in thalamic region, which are present in hypothalamus region. Hypothalamus region. A group of cells, neurosecretory cells, which are present in the hypothalamus region, secretes a special type of hormones. They are said to be hypothalamic hormones. What is the function of these hormones? These hormones stimulate the pituitary gland to secrete its secretions, which control the all other endocrinal glands. That is the thing. Then the most important thing that is controlled or regulated by the thalamus is it controls thirst, it controls hunger and the other satiety feelings. All these are controlled by thalamus, hypothalamus. Not only that, the activities of the autonomic nervous system is integrated by this hypothalamus. Autonomic nervous system is, it is another system. It is divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic system. In the next coming class, we are going to discuss about that autonomic nervous system. It is very important system that is connected with the brain. With this, diencephalon, the structure of the diencephalon is over. So, the parts of the forebrain is completed now. Then the next part, second part is midbrain. Midbrain. There it is located. The name itself indicates that midbrain is present in between the hypothalamus and the next part, that is pons varolii of the hindbrain. It is present in between the midbrain is present. It is located in between the hypothalamus and pons varolii of the hindbrain. Hypothalamus is, it is a part of forebrain. Pons varolii means it is a part of hindbrain. So where it is located? It is located in between the hypothalamus region of the forebrain and pons varolii of the hindbrain. Well, literally speaking, it is present in between the forebrain and hindbrain. That's all. Exact location is in between the hypothalamus of the forebrain and pons varolii of the hindbrain. So what are the parts that make the midbrain? Means these are also composed of a tissue, nervous tissue. That nervous tissue is made into a form of long longitudinal bands, and this ventral region of the midbrain which connects the cerebral hemispheres of the forebrain with the medulla oblongata. That means it connects the forebrain with the hindbrain in the form of a band-like structures. That band-like structures are known as crura cerebri. Crura cerebri, which is more important part of the midbrain. Crura cerebri. So this crura cerebri are nothing but longitudinal bands which are extended from the midbrain towards the forebrain and towards the hindbrain to connect them. This is about the ventral portion of the midbrain. Then coming to the dorsal portion of the midbrain. If we take the dorsal portion, in the dorsal portion, it contains 4 optic lobes. 4 optic lobes are present at the dorsal portion of the midbrain. The upper 2 lobes are said to be superior caliculi. Superior caliculi. Superior caliculi. That means the upper 2 lobes of the midbrain are known as superior caliculi. They control the activities of the vision. They process the visual perceptions. They are involved in processing the visual perception. That is the main thing related to superior caliculi. Similarly, the lower lobes which are present in the midbrain are known as inferior calculi. Inferior calculi. These are mainly connected in processing the auditory perception. Auditory perception. That means this superior calculi and inferior calculi controls the visual and auditory perceptions simultaneously. This is about the midbrain. Then coming to the last part, I will rub the diagram. There is a little space to write the terms which are belongs to the next part, that means hindbrain. Okay, I will show the next part, that is hindbrain, with the help of chart, color print. You see here, this part is hindbrain. Hindbrain. Hindbrain contains three parts: cerebellum, pons varolii, and medulla. You see, cerebellum, pons varolii, and medulla. These three parts constitute the hindbrain. Then here a term, brainstem. Brainstem means it includes, along with pons varolii and medulla, it includes the midbrain part also. It includes the midbrain part. That is called brainstem. So, coming to cerebellum, the first part of the hindbrain. Cerebellum is also divided into two parts. You see here, the cerebellum is also divided into two parts. These parts are said to be cerebellar lobes. Cerebellar lobes. In middle region, this is connected by a fibrous band that is said to be vermis. Vermis. That means the two parts of the cerebellum are connected by a band of tissue that is said to be vermis. If we take each part, this one, each part of the cerebellum is known as cerebellar hemisphere. Cerebellar hemisphere. That means like cerebrum, two cerebellar hemispheres are present in cerebellum. Each cerebral hemisphere is composed of three lobes. Again they are composed of three lobes. The anterior one, anterior lobe, and posterior lobe, and the middle, flaccular lobe. Flaccular lobe. Okay. This is about the cerebellum. We know very well that cerebellum means it is the little brain or mini brain. It is also known as the little brain and mini brain. It acts like a gyroscope of our body. Gyroscope means it helps to maintain the equilibrium, postures, and balance of body parts. That is the function of the cerebellum. That is cerebellum means the little brain and small brain, which is briefly about the functions and structure of the cerebellum. Then coming to another part of the hindbrain. You see here, the pons varoli, where it is located? The pons varoli, it is located just below the midbrain and opposite to the cerebellum. Opposite to the cerebellum. Exactly its location is here. Its location is more important. Why means? It acts like a relay station between the cerebellum and the next coming part, that is medulla oblongata and the spinal cord. The main thing here is, we have to remember is, a pneumotoxic center is present in pons varoli. That pneumotoxic center, it regulates the respiratory movements like inspiration and expiration. That means, with the help of this pneumotoxic center which is present, which is located in the pons varoli, the movements of the respiration are controlled. That means how much air should be entered at each time into the lungs is controlled by the pneumotoxic center which is located in the pons varoli. That is an important thing. This is about the pons varoli. Next, coming part is medulla oblongata. This pons varoli extends posteriorly into medulla oblongata. That means medulla oblongata is just a small portion above the pons varoli, and this medulla oblongata is continued below as the spinal cord. It is continued below as the spinal cord. Okay, then exact location of the medulla oblongata is just it is extended above the pons varoli and posteriorly it is extended as spinal cord. That is about the medulla oblongata. Now coming to the functions of the medulla oblongata, all the cardiovascular activities, all the activities which are not under our control are regulated by medulla oblongata. For example, coughing, sneezing, swallowing, vomiting, hiccuping, all these activities are controlled by medulla oblongata. Our respiratory movements, our cardiovascular activities, all the things are under the control of medulla oblongata. All this type of things are processed by the medulla oblongata. One more thing here we have to remember is, already we discussed about the anterior choroid plexus. Children, where it is present, anterior choroid plexus? It is present in the diencephalon. Already we discussed. But here, in the medullary region, also a non-nervous part is present. That part is known as posterior choroid plexus. It is also highly vascularized. That means it is highly supplied with blood vessels. But what is the function of these anterior choroid plexus and posterior choroid plexus means? They help for the formation of cerebrospinal fluid. Cerebrospinal fluid. Where it is present, cerebrospinal fluid? It is present in the subarachnoid space and subdural space, which is present in the meninges. It is present in the meninges. So, with this, medulla oblongata is completed. Then, coming to the next part of the brain. In the next part, medulla oblongata is continued as spinal cord. Then, another important thing we have to discuss here is ventricles. About the ventricles. Ventricles means the cavities which are present in these parts of the brain is known as ventricles. There are four types of ventricles are present. They are first type of ventricles which are present in the cerebral hemispheres. They are known as first and second ventricles. Then third ventricle is diaphragm, which is present in the diencephalon. Both these first and second ventricle connected with this diencephalon through pores known as foramina Monro. Foramina Monro. Foramina Monro. Then last ventricle, that is metasteme, which is present in the medulla oblongata. This third ventricle and fourth ventricle are connected by a small duct that is known as aqueduct of Sylvicus. Aqueduct of Sylvicus. Aqueduct of Sylvicus. Okay. With this, in this session, we have completed the structure of the brain. So, now you have general idea about the function of the brain. Then in this lesson, you are going to answer the questions like what is cerebrum and what are the meninges and what is the importance of corpus callosum and where it is present and what is the function of the anterior choroid plexus and how the cerebrospinal fluid is formed and what are the functions of the forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain and what is brain stem.